At age 33, when we divorced, he turned to me during that process and said, "You're not going to make it on your own." And as a result of that, I thought, well, yes, I can. Yes, I will. I gave the entire divorce proceeds and every cent in my business and personal account to charity. I knew, and I had that drive and determination to prove wrong.
I'd just love for you to share your perspective on our hormonal changes and how this actually does impact on our finances.
There is so much research that says that women are leaving careers, they're leaving marriages, they're selling businesses because of all these symptoms. What's really sad is those 3 decisions I just mentioned can absolutely devastate our finances. And it's understanding that this is simply our hormones misbehaving. And just like if I was suffering from migraines, I would get treatment for that. Women, our lack of confidence is our superpower when it comes to investing. We will invest regular small amounts in things like broad-based ETFs. If we can open up those conversations to our daughters, that's powerful. You might not have a deposit to give your child. You might not have cash to give your child a leg up. But by teaching them about investing, this will be potentially life-changing for them.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Financially Empowered Women podcast. This is season 2, and for this very first episode in the podcast, I'm really excited to introduce you to Mel Browne. Let me tell you a little bit about Mel. Mel is an ex-accountant, ex-financial advisor, and now author. She's an authorized representative, licensed to give general advice, and she's a financial educator who owned a successful accounting and financial planning business for almost 20 years. Mel has written 5 books about business and money, including the global bestseller Unfuck Your Finances, and her latest book, released in January 2026, called Dare to Be Wealthy.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mel.
Thank you so much. Yes, I know we're recording this in Jan, but it's out beginning of February, which is very exciting.
Oh, very exciting. So I got one of the early copies.
Sure did.
And we're going to be talking about that during the podcast today. But first impressions, great book, very, very helpful. Before we talk about the book, though, Mel, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and about your journey. I know that it has been quite a journey for you, but what were some of the beliefs that you had about money when you were growing up?
So I'm a Western Sydney from chick, and I grew up in a very inconsistent, often violent household. And I saw my dad, what was, looking back now, absolutely coercive control. And I don't think, he absolutely didn't realize. I don't think that's what it was. And I think it was a different time, but it was that nonetheless. He dictated to my mum whether she could work or not. He put documents in front of her and said, "Don't read them, just sign them." He handed her housekeeping money, and that was just, this is supposed to go, this is going to last a week for all the kids' stuff. Don't come to me for any more. And yet would drive a new car. Like, it was very much, this is my money, you do what I say. And I grew up with a few messages from that one. I never wanted to be in my mum's position, ever. I wanted the role of my dad. And I didn't see at the time that that was unhealthy. I just saw that as, well, I don't want to be her. And the other thing I saw was, I just saw a lack of female representation around being wealthy or having money or having careers. I just didn't see that around me. So I simply believed that that wasn't an option for me, especially in the Western suburbs, especially. I think it is very much what you see is how you often behave. And so I definitely grew up with a money story, if not enough. And what I did as a result of that is, the only option I thought I had was get married super early, and that's my way out. So I was smart in that I bought a house and land with my first husband, but stuck with him for far too long because I was playing the good girl. I didn't want to cause waves. That's just what you do. And my story really, even though I was a financial expert, I was an accountant. At age 33, when we divorced, he turned to me during that process and said, "You're not going to make it on your own." And as a result of that, and we say things when we're emotional and things are running hot. As a result of that, I thought, well, yes, I can. Yes, I will, because I am hyper competitive. So I gave the entire divorce proceeds and every cent in my business and personal account to charity, to Opportunity International, so that he could never say anything from that point was a result of family or from him or anything. But it meant, as a result, I had to go into 5 figures of debt, I had to move into a frat house with 5 mates. And yes, that was fun, but also it was a moldy basement bedroom where my entire assets fit in the back of my car. Like, that is not what I imagined for myself in my 30s. And I guess the difference between me and other women that I see in that position is, I knew, and I had that drive and determination to prove wrong. So I learned how to invest. As an accountant, I didn't know how to invest in shares. We didn't really have podcasts. We didn't really have ETFs when I was looking at that. I learned how to find more cash. I learned how to build a successful business. And come to my late 40s, I was a multimillionaire who had choice or not, to work or not. And my money story now is radically different. I absolutely still compare and really struggle with not finding myself wanting. I still struggle with not being enough. But I guess the difference now is that doesn't take the wheel. That's not in the front seat. I try and make sure that they're in the boot. Those stories, and they're very muffled. So what I do now is I'm an educator. I'm now, rather than working one-on-one with people, I now teach women primarily how to do that, how to have wealth, how to have options, how to have choice for themselves.
Fantastic. Look, I had to laugh when you told the story about giving everything to charity, which is a beautiful act, and not knocking it at all.
Beautiful and stupid all at the same time. I wished I'd put it in a bank account for 12 months. And then after 12 months made the decision.
Yeah.
Rather than that gut reaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have to ask the question, do you think that you would have made it to where you are now if you didn't have that drive because you'd started back from zero again?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that before. I think I would definitely wouldn't be in the same position that I am now, because I think our circumstances do shape us. But I had already started that process. I played state league netball for a while and really gained confidence from women, watching women just do powerful things together. I had started therapy, and so was really starting to understand my drivers and work through some trauma. So I do believe I would have eventually got to that point. and probably in a healthier way rather than having to hustle really hard and proving myself. I believe I would have got there anyway, but perhaps it might have been a gentler approach rather than I'll prove you wrong. Yeah, that's not always a nice way to do it. Whatever works, but yeah, I have this drive to hustle and prove myself, and I really have to tell her she doesn't need to do that, because that part of me just takes the wheel so often.
Yeah, and there are a few things in there that you said, like around doing things gently, and now realizing that you don't have to do the hustle and grind, and you can be kind to yourself, and you can, sort of. What I'm getting from this is that you have the understanding now that you can create wealth, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be, okay, we're going to almost love our way to wealth rather than beat ourselves to wealth.
I love that. And I think for women, if I talk to women initially and talk about building wealth, their instant reaction is, but I don't want to trade off time with my family, or but I don't want to have to work harder, or I don't have 30 years. Like there's always those objections. And my response now is you can find money. You don't have to have second jobs or work longer and longer. There's so many ways to find more cash now. And by investing even small amounts, that gives us so much option. If I could go back to where I made those decisions, if I simply started investing into shares regularly and let the power of compound interest take me further rather than working so hard, I would be a lot wealthier than I am now. And it's a lesson that I continually remind myself today. It's, whilst I love working and I'm really strategic about how I work, it's making sure that I don't also neglect investing and letting time do its thing and compound interest and all the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is a mindset around that we do have to, sort of push through and keep going and work a gazillion jobs. But what you were talking about in terms of compound interest and basically letting money make money so that we don't have to work so hard. And then there's another sort of leap that my mind is making to AI. And I know for myself that I've been a bit hesitant to really jump into AI, and there's all of these risks, and want to make sure that I do it in a very sensible way. But I read something this morning, which was a perspective of somebody saying, "Well, yeah, he's basically," and I'll say who it is. It's Vishen from Mind Valley, Vishen Lakiani, the founder of Mind Valley. He was saying that he is using AI agents to not completely run his business, but it's basically replaced a lot of his time. So he now has time to work on himself. And, sort of he takes a week off a month, and more time to focus on him and do things that nourish and encourage him. So I'm just making the point there that we think that we have to be the person that does it all. And actually, there's tools around us that we can use that mean that creating wealth can be more joyful and fun.
Yeah, I completely agree. And whilst I agree there are so many complexities with AI and so many environmental issues that I have with AI, personally, I won't use it for personal use. I'll turn off AI searches. I try to minimize my exposure to AI personally, but for business, absolutely. If it means that I can free up resources, whether that's time, whether that's money, whether it's cash flow, or just what, it does mean then that I have more choice and my team have more choices as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've been watching the news lately, it's easy to feel a sense of despair between power-hungry global leaders and absolute chaos and division. It can feel like things are spiraling out of control. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and just to have a sense of powerlessness. But there is a way to push back. We can stop looking at what they are doing and start looking at what we can do. At Women for Homes, we firmly believe that where we put our money is making a choice for the kind of world that we want to live in. Our mission is powerful: to mobilise 1 million women to invest $5,000 to end homelessness by 2030, whilst being financially empowered along the way. It's practical, it's tangible, it's something that we can do now, and it's something that we can do to take our power back. Join us at www.womenforhomes.com. That's women4homes.com.
To wrap up that AI conversation, I was talking to my daughter about it last night, and my husband mentioned something about some new AI agents, and he said, look, my daughter's 16. He said, look, don't download anything. And so we were talking about the risks of that. And at the moment, there's so much risk of AI bots being hacked and what that could do to your data and where that could go. So really important to not necessarily just jump in, but also, I think, be open and curious about it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like anything, isn't it? It is being open and curious, being super aware of the risks, including the risks of being scammed, as you said. We have conversations in our family, and I have them with my community, where my mother-in-law and my husband both know we have a safe word, not a sexual safe word, but a financial safe word, so that if ever one of us calls up for anything financial, anything as innocuous as, can you give me their net bank code, or can you can remind me of what the account number is again, or can you transfer me $100 because blah, blah, blah. Like, if there's anything financial whatsoever, we have to say, can you just remind me what the word is? And we have a ridiculous safe word that no one can guess. And that's the only way that we'll give out that information, because AI and bots have the ability to use our voices, to use our images, and we just have to be really aware and wise to those sort of scams that are going on that are just so good.
Yeah. I'm glad we made this segue into AI, because I think that idea is brilliant, having the financial safe word. I'm definitely taking that one on.
Yeah, and I remind Hubby, my mother-in-law's 88, he reminds her of that every month, just to keep it front of mind. I'll bring it up with him as well every so often, just to say, hey, don't forget, safe word. Because you can forget, or if you're in a hurry, you can quickly make that phone call. And where the scams will get you is when you're in a hurry, when you're busy, when you're trying to do something on the fly. So it's just making it as natural as breathing. And if you over ask for it, who cares? Yeah.
Now, with your book, Dare to be Wealthy, and I'll just show it here.
She's pretty.
It's so pretty. I love the colours. I have similar colours for the podcast, which is great.
I love that.
Was there a moment, or what was the insight where you just thought, I have to write this book?
Yeah, this is the book I've probably been wanting to write for the last 5 years, and I was a little bit scared too. So I had started talking about my story a little bit in Unfuck Your Finances, where I hinted at it. I'd done some work with people like Dress for Success and told parts of my story. But what I have known more and more is there is so much shame around money. There is so much confusion, and particularly with women. The more I have conversations with women, the more I realize that a lot of what's holding us back is the fact that we are trying to exist in a patriarchal system that wasn't created for us. And I guess as I went into perimenopause and menopause, I just got angrier. And I really wanted to write this book, but I was scared to. And I probably about 2 years ago, I sat down with a girlfriend and we did some goals work together to hold each other accountable. And I said, I'm going to at least have the first few chapters written and a summary, and have submitted it to the publisher by the end of the year. And so it just forced me to write. And a great editor said to me at the very beginning, she said, you can't edit a blank page. So I just started to write knowing that, this may not end up being what it is. I can pull stuff out if I feel uncomfortable, but I'm just going to put it all down and see what I think will resonate. but I am extraordinarily proud of it. It is the only finance book that I know of that talks about menopause, perimenopause, that talks about deeply about women's issues, about how we feel. It's the only book that talks about something that I've coined the gender financial language gap. So I'm really proud of what I'm talking about in it. And I don't believe it's the only finance book you ever need to buy. But I believe if you're a woman, it's the one you can't afford not to buy and not to pass on.
100%. And I've read the book, and I'm going back for a second pass shortly. But that was one of the things that jumped out at me, perimenopause, because that's something that is happening to me right now. And, I'd just love for you to share your perspective on our hormonal changes and how this actually does impact on our finances.
So I think it's really interesting, both whether you are still menstruating, and it's fascinating. I remember, even when I was growing up, that concept of, oh, she's getting a period, can't be trusted kind of thing, she's going to go into rage, when actually there is a phrase that has been passed on for like wisdom that's called you bleed on it, meaning that when we have our periods as a woman, when we're menstruating, that is one of, if you are menstruating, that's one of the best times to make a decision. So it's understanding the different phases of our menstrual cycle, and you might not be able to make all your decisions then, but hey, if you have the opportunity, it's understanding how they affect your finances. But perimenopause, looking back, I probably went into late 30s, so I went into menopause quite early. I didn't talk to friends. I remember when the doctor handed me the blood test results, I burst into tears. I was deeply ashamed that I was now middle-aged and everything that entailed, which is just really sad, an indictment on the society that we live in, that I felt that way. But I had incredible hot flashes. I had such rage at my husband that if he was chewing next to me, I just wanted to grab the cushion and put it over his face. Like the poor man.
I know the sound of that
and the
chewing.
brain
It's
fog.
awful.
Sound of the chewing. And the brain fog. I remember doing a podcast with Mamma Mia and forgetting or saying the wrong thing and feeling too embarrassed to say, oh, I'm so sorry, and can't remember what I just said. Or forgetting account numbers and having to write them down and hide them. And there is so much research that says that women are leaving careers, they're leaving marriages, they're selling businesses because of all these symptoms and feeling like, I just can't be doing this. And what happens is that when those symptoms do subside and we pass into menopause, often what the research is finding is that women want to go back and undo those big decisions. And what's really sad is those 3 decisions I just mentioned can absolutely devastate our finances. And re-entering the workforce after that, particularly for in our 50s, is really tough. So it's understanding what perimenopause is, the impact that it has, and doctor shopping. I had to go to 3 doctors until I found one that was willing to have conversations around HRT and progesterone and all of the things. For me, that was life-saving. I appreciate that is not the solution for everyone, but it's finding the solution that is right for you. During that time for me, it was also doing therapy, because one of the beautiful parts of perimenopause is if you've been through trauma, it can re-trigger and amplify that and really bring out things like depression, etc. I know that now. I didn't know then. I thought I was going crazy. So I love that we are talking more about this, and it's understanding that this is simply our hormones misbehaving. And just like if I was suffering from migraines or if I had something else, I would get treatment for that. It's getting treatment for your symptoms so that you continue to work and be productive and invest and make those really wise decisions that you would make when you're on the other side of perimenopause. Because I've got to say, having been in menopause for, God, about 4 years now, it's a much calmer place. The I don't give a shitness of it is heightened and amplified. I just feel like it's liberating, but it's tough for some women to get there. So it's supporting you financially, either through understanding your symptoms and getting solutions for that, but also making sure you have the resources to go to doctor's appointments, to get the scans, to afford the solutions that you might need. And I had a conversation with government yesterday where they asked me, hey, what are some things that you think we should be doing? I'm like, our friends across the ditch in New Zealand are subsidising this, why aren't we? Like, I think it's just really important that we do more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting that you say that there is another side, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, per se.
Really is, I promise you. Yeah.
Yeah, because for some people, they just think this is it. This is me. Like,
This is it.
it's my lot.
Yeah. And it's definitely different. Like, my body has changed. I used to be a state league netballer. I was very fit. My body has radically changed. And it's, again, applying that gentle lens and, all right, so this is what it is now. I'm not giving up, but I'm going to change how I respond to it, which is why me and every other woman of my age are crazy about protein and sleep and lifting heavy and doing all those great things, because I want to live a long time, but I want to live well. I want to live well with my health, and I want to live well financially so that I can afford to be able to live well up until hopefully 100.
Amazing. I have a goal to be a centenarian as well.
Yeah, me too.
But well, like,
yeah, I think
that's
I
the opposite
read
word.
when I was younger that you got a telegram from the Queen, and that just tickled my fancy. I'm really keen to have, it'll be a king, but I'm just really keen to be, as you said,
Centenarian.
I can't say the word. Centenarian. Yeah, very cool.
But I mean, that leads me to the question around, I mean, so what you said just then was wanting to live for a long life, wanting to live well, wanting to have that financial backing around you. But for a lot of women, that's actually not the case. And one of the things that we really focus on in Women for Homes is how can we ensure that this story of women over 55 being the fastest growing group facing homelessness is reversed. So and I know that you speak with a lot of women, work with a lot of women. What are you seeing around financial insecurity and housing insecurity, particularly in women as they're aging?
So, and again, it was a conversation I had with someone in government yesterday. Our leasing system needs to be fixed in Australia. We need to make sure that we have security around our housing. Like, that's such a basic need. And it might be that you're a woman in 60s that is renting. And what we want to make sure is that you don't have to be uncertain as to, am I going to have to move every 12 months? So I believe that government needs to come to the party with longer term leases so that there is protection for tenants. And I believe that's a protection for landlords as well, because you are then certain around, great, I know that I have this income going forward. As a woman, I could then invest. I can have certainty with my expenses. And I think that with especially young people as well, there are more people choosing to rent. I'm hoping this is an area that really government steps in with. But it is also, it's also not removing yourself from the possibility of home ownership because of your age. So we have women in our community, and I'm thinking of one particularly, Liz from Melbourne. She's 53, single, she never owned her own home. And she was like, well, that's not for me. It's not on the cards for me now. But she spoke to a mortgage broker. She realised there are programs available. There are rebates. There are things that we can access. And she is now in a home. Yes, she has a mortgage, but she has strategies where for her, she can still contribute to super, knowing that when she retires, she can grab that in a lump sum and potentially pay off her home at that point. But also she has certainty of housing. She has certainty of, yes, I'm going to have that mortgage for the next 30 years, but I would have had rent otherwise. And at least I know what this is going to be. So it's realizing that you might have opted out of something because you just presumed it wasn't for you, but you may actually have a choice that you didn't realize. I believe it's talking to great finance professionals, like a really good mortgage broker, and figuring out, is that possible for you and what that might look like? But if you are in that renting position and you're thinking, okay, well, it's just not on the cards for me, it is choosing to also invest, whether that's a home, whether it might not be a home, but it might be choosing to put more into super or choosing to invest in shares. It's choosing not to opt out, because even $200 a month invested is worth it. Even $50 a month is worth it, because it's going to bring you options. And if a woman is listening going, yeah, but I don't have a spare 100 or a spare 50, I've got a free resource on my website called 20 plus ways to find 10K in 12 months. We've got women in our community that are with their family, pet sitting, pet walking. We have one woman that's just doing that with her fam, $11,500 she makes in a year, just from pet sitting and pet walking. It's all delivered to her. She doesn't have to go to a job. She's a single mum. Her kids get the agency of looking after pets, but and she gets paid for it. And she puts that money initially to bad debt and now to investing. You might choose to house sit for a while and remove the cost of home ownership completely while you build funds. Like, there are so many things available to you. I think what I want women to hear is we don't just have to tighten our belt. We can learn how to find more cash and then realize we have more agency than we think.
Absolutely. Look, there's so many things coming out of this. The first thing I want to say is that I'm not the mathematician here, so correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think that it is mathematically impossible to get ahead financially. How would I say this? If we're just relying on an income, unless it's a very big income, I think we all need to be looking at ways that we can increase our income. So, we might have a stable job, but if you're banking on your stable job to see you out, and like I said, unless you've got a really well paid job, I think that having a way of generating additional revenue is really important, because I'm looking at like cost of living crisis. I'm looking at all of that and just going, yeah, the numbers are not going to go down. They haven't gone down since COVID. Everything's just going up and up and up. But wages are not going up.
And it's just being wise is developing multiple income streams, so that if you have a wobble, if something happens, you know that you're not just relying on that one thing. And I think COVID showed all of us that, the ability for that just to disappear instantly. And if you have the ability to be able to find more cash, I've got mums that are watching their kids at sport or dropping them at music lessons, doing lazy surveys and making 10 or 20 bucks as they do it. Like, there's so many ways to do this. But it's realizing it's a skill and almost turning it into a game if you need to. But yeah, I completely agree, Diane. It is, I think it's dangerous to just rely on the income that we have. I mean, it's something I still do, because one, I want to see that this works, but also I put my found money into crypto because I don't want to invest my own money into something that I think's incredibly risky. So I run my 10K a year challenge, and that's where I put that. So it's if you do this, you can then realize that suddenly, I've got more choice than perhaps what I thought that I do.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say, and it does go back to what we were talking about as we are aging. I think that this aging process and going through perimenopause and coming out the other side menopause, I think that that's where our superpower is as women. And I think that's what, in fact, I don't think, I know that's why I get so upset about women who are most at risk of homelessness or experiencing homelessness, sleeping in their cars, couch surfing, that kind of thing, because this is a time that, as women, we have this amazing capacity to give our wisdom, our generosity, and yet the women that we should be protecting for that, so that they can give that and contribute to generations that are younger than them, they're not being protected. And so as a society, we're actually all losing out as a result. It's not just the older woman that's sleeping in a car, it's us as a society that are missing out as well. So that's why I believe that we really need to sort this out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for women that are struggling, I think it is realizing there is help available. So whether it's a financial counsellor, whether it is a women's shelter, uh, it's also realizing there are emergency payments available. There's not enough, and there is absolutely not enough support, and not enough being done. But it's not shameful to ask for help. And it's not shameful to take advantage of resources that are available for you. Because I also believe that I think too many women think having money is crass, or they don't want to end up living in their car. And that for me is too low a bar. So when I'm talking to women about building wealth, I say you might feel really uncomfortable with that, but the research shows that when women hold wealth, families benefit, communities benefit, society benefits, because women are more likely to donate. Women are more likely to give back. And certainly for me, that's why I now work, is in order to give back. Like, that is so motivating for me. And I think it's just that, again, that mindset shift of this is why we can do that. If we can't rely on the government to come and save us. So if we're able as women to say, okay, so maybe part of what I'm going to do is build wealth so that I can put funds towards these problems that I see. For me, that's always going to be women and children, whether it's domestic violence shelters, whether it's abuse, like that is always where my funds are going to go.
That's beautiful. And it reminds me of a quote that you put in your book, which is, you educate a man, you educate a man. You educate a woman, you educate a generation. I think that that's very telling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the stats at the moment are that men will talk to their boys about investing, women will talk to their girls about not spending and budgeting, so being frugal. We need to undo that conditioning as well. We need for women to realize investing's not that hard, and in fact, the research shows we're better at it than the blokes, because the blokes are more emotional investors. They're more likely to trade more frequently. Women, our lack of confidence is our superpower when it comes to investing. The fact that we will invest regular small amounts in things like broad-based ETFs is a really positive thing, the research shows. And if we can have those conversations and open up those conversations to our daughters and our kids, and that's powerful. Because if I've got an 18-year-old, if I don't want to do it for me, if I find that investing in money is just overwhelming, but I've got a teenager, they've got 50 years in front of them. And the smaller that they can invest now, that makes a massive impact. So if I had an 18-year-old and they invested $250 a month for 50 years, like that's a lot now, but it's not a lot when they're 60, $250 a month. That's, by the time 50 years is out, that's $3.2 million. At the current 30-year Vanguard 25 index. So you might not have a deposit to give your child. You might not have cash to give your child to live up. But by teaching them about investing, by teaching them how to find more cash, this will be potentially life-changing for them, and it's a gift you can pass on and do with them. So it's that legacy piece.
That's beautiful. Thinking about it from a legacy perspective. So it's not just, okay, we're investing and here you are. It's the ripple effect for your children, for their children, and so on. Because those habits, they do get embedded. Vice versa, bad habits also get embedded, and having to unlearn those is hard. As we know, as we've had experience of. So yeah, instilling those good habits really does benefit future generations as well. You mentioned about women investing and tending to be cautious, but they're actually being a superpower. There was something in your book as well that you mentioned about intuition and women's intuition when it comes to investing. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think for women, we're often told that woo-woo side that we have, our intuition, that gut feel, we need to park that. And yet, I was the victim of an assault when I was much younger. So if I am out and about, I have a radar on. I have a superpower around, is this safe? Like my gut feel. And I've often said to my husband before, or I'll just pick up the phone and ring him because I feel really uncomfortable in a situation. Or I'll just have a feeling with a person and go, yeah, you're not safe. Like I just can't interact with you. And I trust that. I think that as women, we need to trust ourselves. And I think there's a lack of trust that the media have placed on us, and that film and TV have placed on us, and that even society at whole has placed on us. If we think about how we are portrayed, that we are spenders who will that we are frivolous, that are just interested in brunching all day and shopping. And yet for many women, that's just like the tiniest part of, I love fashion, but that is not my personality. So it's realizing that what we want to have is something that Karen James, who's a good friend of mine, called a data-based gut. It's starting to understand how the world of money works. So creating that data around it, knowing how much I can invest, all of that sort of thing. But then having that gut feel around what's right for you, having that intuition around, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with this investment because I just don't trust that it's going to be ethical, or I don't trust that it's going to align with my values. So I'm going to look for one that does. It's really starting to lean into that and believing it when it comes to our money. Because just like we have the ability to make change in our community, we have the ability to make change with our super, with our insurances, with our investing, and with our spending choices. And I speak to a lot of women that spend a lot of money at Temu, and yet will march in women's marches and will sign petitions around kids kids at risk. I think, do you realize what you're doing? And they'll say to me, oh yeah, but I can't afford it and my kid really wants it. I'm like, oh, well, you are making a values choice now. So it's just realizing we actually do have choice in every decision we make, and to really switch on that intuition to go, is this actually the right choice? Does this align with my values? Is this something that I would be proud of?
And that's really powerful. I was talking to my son the other day, and we were talking about there's a managed investment scheme, and they are actively investing into weapons manufacturing and war and things like that, which is something that I absolutely am not into. So I was making the point to him that yes, we can, even though we might vote or march or whatever, and we feel that doesn't have an impact, one of the biggest impacts is what we choose to spend our money on and where we choose to invest. And we really do have the power in that. It's so important to realize.
I wholeheartedly agree. And it's choosing to be interested. There's a really famous TED Talk by Dr. Bronwyn King, an oncologist who famously had their investment advisors come and speak to them at the hospital, and she realised that she's fighting cancer and yet investing in big tobacco. So she created a movement where she wanted big tobacco removed from investments, from superannuation investments particularly. But so many of us, all our values are different. Sustainability and women's issues might be important to me. For someone else, it might be fossil fuels. For all of us, hopefully it's anti-war. But it is recognising that what are your values, and then what do you feel comfortable with when it comes to our investments? Because your superannuation, particularly in Australia, is a massive investment potentially. Even if you only have $10,000 in there, that can make a big difference. If all the women in Australia were tomorrow to decide, you know what, this is what we won't invest in and this is what we will, super funds would change their behaviour because they want our money.
Yeah, that's absolutely their business model.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, we're getting to the end of this podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure to have spent this time with you, to be talking about your book, to be talking about the work that you do. You mentioned that the book is coming out in February. Do you have a release date for that?
Yes, February 3rd.
February 3rd. Oh, gosh, that's just next week.
Very exciting. Yeah, very, very soon.
Very exciting. And for women who want to work with you or explore how they can work with you, we do have a resource page that you've very kindly provided. I will put the link in the show notes for that. But in terms of the URL, it's www.melissabrown with an E on the end, .com.au/FEW. FEW for Financially Empowered Women. So, Melissa, anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off?
I think it's realising that as women, we have more agency than we realise. Even if you are someone where you can't see the forest for the trees, I think it's asking yourself, what's the next step that I can make? And if you are a woman that is suddenly aware, perhaps from this conversation, that she actually has a lot of choice, it's asking that question, but are my choices aligning with my values? And am I actually lifting up community, society, and other women through what my money is doing? Because, as I said, I believe that if the financial system was created by women and for women, it would look radically different than the one we're playing in. But we can start to change it from the inside with our behaviour and start to not believe the conditioning that so many of us have grown up with. And that's a radical act in our society, is to not believe what we are told, like that conditioning of but this is how you have to behave, and you don't have enough time, and you have to age a particular way and behave a particular way. No. As women, I think there have been financial revolutions before. I say in the book, 50 years ago, a woman couldn't get a mortgage without a male co-signing. And I believe it's time for another one, for women to wake up a little bit and to do more with their finances.
100%. And you remind me of the quote by Buckminster Fuller, which is, don't rail against the existing system if it's not what you want. Create a new system that makes the old one obsolete. And I believe that that's what you're doing in your work. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up here. Thank you so much, Mel. Wonderful to have you as a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.